Malacanang maintains that President Duterte will never cooperate in the potential drug war probe of the International Criminal Court or ICC. The health department says the downtrend in COVID-19 cases across the NCR Plus bubble remains fragile. What this means is that any super spreader event could trigger a spike in infections. President Duterte has announced new quarantine classifications for the rest of the month. Despite remaining under GCQ status, Metro Manila and Bulacan will see slightly more relaxed restrictions. The United States is welcoming the Philippines' decision to once again suspend the possible scrapping of the Visiting Forces Agreement or VFA. And in entertainment, South Korean star Park Seo-joon is rumored to be part of the upcoming Captain Marvel sequel. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's a roundup of stories we're watching now. I'm Sean Yao. The International Criminal Court or ICC finds basis for possible crimes against humanity in President Duterte's war on drugs. But Malacanang says the chief executive will never cooperate in any probe initiated by the ICC. Let's discuss this further with Aurora Parong. She is the co-chair of the Philippine Coalition for the ICC and head of Amnesty International PH. Good evening, ma'am. First off, what was your reaction to this formal request of ICC prosecutor Fatou Bensouda to launch a drug war investigation?
Hi, Sean. Of course, we are very happy because it's a very welcome development. The prosecutor of the ICC has finally, after lots of months of waiting, she has finally asked the pre-trial chamber to authorize an investigation.
Yes. Ma'am, can you perhaps walk us through this preliminary report that was released by the ICC? What were your key takeaways for us laymen to understand, at least?
First, the prosecutor's report says that there is reasonable basis to find that there's crimes against humanity that happened here in the Philippines in the war on drugs. When you talk about crimes against humanity, there has to be systematic and widespread crimes. So that's a serious international crime that is within the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. If it's just one killing, that it doesn't take it on. If it's not systematic, it's not widespread, then it cannot take it on. But when it looked at the cases here in the Philippines, there are reports about 7,000 that were caused by police operations directly, wherein people were killed. And then there are, of course, the killings also, which they said is not related to police operations, but that's a lot. That's 27 to 30,000. That's what the Commission on Human Rights earlier said might be the actual numbers. We don't really have, all the actual numbers because it looks like different organizations like the CHR would have some NGOs, civil society would have some, or some may have directly given the reports to the International Criminal Court. But now that there is this request for authorization, it means that first, it's systematic and widespread, so crimes against humanity. Then the possibilities that it's not only those who pull the trigger may be accountable, but there's possibilities that those who encourage the killings can also be included in the investigation of the ICC. Of course, there's still a lot of challenges right now. First, after this request of the prosecutor, we need to have the pre-trial chamber authorized. So they have to approve the request. And then after that, then there can be continuous work from the office of the prosecutor to investigate. So they will now look at cases, possible cases that can fit into the crimes against humanity, which they said there's reasonable cause to believe that it happened. So they have to look at specific cases, see who are maybe directly responsible. Is there some command responsibility that they have to look into? So what's the pattern? So how widespread is it that? So they must have now evidences. I'm very happy that the prosecutor already said that they have taken some steps during the preliminary examination to ensure that some of the evidences are safe and secure. Uh, After that, of course, they have to see what charges. So the killings, is it really killing? Is there extrajudicial killing without self-defense or something like that? And then they will look at, was there torture before the killing, because that was an allegation. Also, there are cases which were given to them where there's like rape or sexual violence against our relatives of the victims of extrajudicial killing. So, and then the third that they have to look at, complementarity. So when you talk about complementarity, you really have to see, is there anything that's happening on the ground at the domestic level? Because not all cases that are brought to the ICC are taken by it if there's really criminal prosecution that's happening on the ground. Right now, we only have one case, the case of Kian, where there was effective prosecution. So it means that there was investigation, there's evidence, and then 3 policemen were convicted for the crime of killing. And now that has to be looked into. And so we know that there is, I just read a statement from the Department of Foreign Affairs, and their view is that if there is some review by the Department of Justice and the courts are functioning, then the ICC shouldn't take it. But it must be very clear that it should be towards criminal prosecution, not only of those people who pulled the trigger, but also the most responsible. Is there a policy? Was somebody encouraged to make the killings in the war on drugs? Of course, in the report of the prosecutor, she also mentioned that they looked into some cases in Davao from 2011 up to 2016. It was in 2011 that the Philippines became a state party, and the treaty is enforced in the Philippines. So they can only look at cases from 2011, when the treaty was already enforced in the Philippines, up
Yes,
to
ma'am?
2019, March 16.
Right, right, ma'am. So
That's the
how
time that
then?
we were, yeah.
Yeah. How then will Duterte's reluctance to cooperate affect the timeline of this investigation? And what other factors could possibly come into play? I heard you that's a lot of cases, really, and even predating the presidency of Duterte.
There has to be some witnesses who are willing to really give testimonies, no? Because that's very important. And then, of course, there has to be also a paper trail, documentation, the memos of the Philippine National Police encourage the killings. Was there accountability for even those at the top level of the PNP? Or maybe you can also ask, how did the public statements of the president affect the attitude or the way the Philippine National Police conducted its operations. Also, in conducting not even investigation, you failure to conduct investigations. You know, one thing that should really be done locally to prove that you are doing something, first, file cases, move them to criminal prosecution, not just administrative cases. And what has been done? The Secretary of Justice said that there are cases for administrative and criminal action. What has been done? Why is the Secretary of Justice waiting for the police to do it when the prosecute, prosecutors' offices are under the Department of Justice? So why can't the Department of Justice take hold of these cases and then be able to look at it and really file? And then, of course, at the level of the police, I think the presumption of regularity without investigations is wrong.
All
It
right.
is in the mandate, yeah, it is wrong. But the mandate of the IAS, Internal Affairs Services, is to any firing of shots should be investigated.
All
Much
right.
more if there is, killings. So there's still a lot really. That's why when we said it is a very welcome development, it is a ray of hope for the families of victims of extrajudicial executions. But it's just a ray. There's still no complete life. It's not a complete victory because there has to be that process up to the trial. If there are charges that will be filed, then there will be a trial. There is due process even for those accused because there has to be a fair trial for both the victims' families who are seeking justice as well as for the one who is accused. So it's still a long way.
Right. We understand that it is going to be a long way, but we're glad that it seems the inertia has been broken. Thank you so much for your time and your insights. Aurora Parong, Philippine Coalition for the ICC and co-chair and head of Amnesty International Philippines. Thank you so much for your time, ma'am. And in other news, the Health Department has warned that the downtrend in COVID-19 cases across the NCR Plus bubble remains fragile. In a press briefing today, Dr. Althea de Guzman of the Epidemiology Bureau said that any super spreader event could trigger a spike in infections at this point. Average daily cases in the region have dropped to 833 in the past week from 997 the previous week.
Since the start of our vaccine deployment, what we've emphasized for our vaccination sites is the need to ensure no, na ang ating mga pupunta doon, yung mga nag-hold or nagagawa ng vaccination, will follow our MPHS protocols. No?
And for his part, infectious diseases expert Dr. Edsel Salvan has cautioned against the failure to follow the 7th-day testing protocol of the IATF for arriving passengers. In a Facebook post, Salvana said the Delta variant could result in an India-like surge once it reaches the communities. And the NCR Plus bubble will remain under GCQ status until the end of June. Quarantine restrictions in Metro Manila and Bulacan will be slightly eased, while the rest of the NCR Plus will continue to observe heightened restrictions. Parts of the Cordillera Autonomous Region as well as other regions like Soc-Sargen and BARMM will also be under GCQ status for the remainder of June. Meanwhile, 21 areas in the Visayas and Mindanao have been put under modified ECQ. And these include Davao City, Cagayan de Oro City, and Zamboanga City, as well as Negros Oriental, Iloilo Province, and Iloilo City. And here are other stories we're keeping our eyes on. Vice President Leni Robredo's wealth grew threefold last year after inheriting cash and other properties from her late mother. Based on her SALN obtained by Philstar, Robredo's wealth rose to over 11.9 million from just 3.5 million pesos in 2019. Philstar also reports that Robredo's office released the document after just one working day in the interest of transparency. And the Supreme Court has ordered Herminio Dizini, a Marcos crony, to pay the government 1 billion pesos in exemplary damages. The High Court held Dizini liable for exerting undue influence in the award of the Bataan nuclear power plant contract. And the U.S. Embassy in Manila has welcomed the government's move to suspend anew the termination of the VFA or Visiting Forces Agreement. It notes that the PH-US alliance continues to contribute to security and rules-based order that benefits other nations. Defense Chief Delfin Lorenzana says they will further review the accord to help Duterte make an informed decision on the matter. And South Korean star Park Seo-joon is rumored to be joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe soon. Korean news outlets reported that the Itaewon-class actor will be flying to the United States later this year to join Brie Larson and the rest of the Captain Marvel sequel cast. However, the actor's agency has yet to comment on Seo-joon's involvement in this project. The Marvels is slated for release on November 2022. For more updates, visit News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Sean Yao. We are One News.